Have you ever wondered who was the true arch-nemesis of the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex? The answer might surprise you. Most people, influenced by cinema, would say that its greatest rival was the Spinosaurus, especially after seeing it in action in Jurassic Park 3. We imagine epic battles between these prehistoric titans, but this idea is more fiction than reality. In fact, the dinosaurs we love so much on the big screen, like Spinosaurus and Giganotosaurus, never crossed paths with the T.rex. They were separated by millions of years in Earth's timeline. So who was the true opponent of the Tyrant King? It wasn't another carnivore, but a formidable herbivore that made its mark in the history of paleontology, the Triceratops. This three-horned giant is the only known creature that could wound a T.rex. So forget the movies. The real prehistoric rivalry was between the fierce T.rex and the indomitable Triceratops, a true clash of titans that actually happened millions of years ago. If you have any interest in dinosaurs or paleontology, this name should ring many bells, as over time it has become an icon in its own right thanks to its unique appearance and imposing size. An adult Triceratops was among the largest non-sauropod dinosaurs of its time, measuring between 8 and 9 meters, 26 to 30 feet in length, and weighing on average between 6 and 10 tons. Exceptionally large individuals were even heavier, possibly reaching up to 12 tons, making them heavier than the Tyrannosaurus itself, and a contender for the title of the largest ceratopsian of all time. To give some perspective on how incredibly heavy this is, a 12-ton Triceratops would be equal to 6 average-sized cars or 120 American men. Without a doubt, this kind of size made mature adults quite secure in their environments. But because Triceratops lived during the age of dinosaurs and specifically alongside one of the largest theropods we know of, size sometimes wasn't enough, and instead it had evolved some rather powerful defenses, one of which was its bones. Many ceratopsians had robust builds, but the Triceratops was particularly robust, with much thicker bones than what is typically seen in other dinosaurs, and this is clearly demonstrated when comparing the femur of a Triceratops with the femur of an exceptionally large African elephant. This sturdiness would have provided a level of protection against injuries, which was further reinforced by its posture, as it had a low body and therefore a lower center of gravity. However, even the remarkably thick bones paled in comparison to the Triceratops' ultimate defense, its gigantic skull. The Triceratops possessed an enormous head that could constitute more than a third of the specimen's total length, with the largest recorded skulls measuring 2.5 meters, 8.2 feet long, placing them among the largest skulls of any land animal. Despite not being a contender for the title of the largest land animal overall, one reason its head was so large is due to a wide frill at the top, which likely had a multifunctional role both in courtship, where it might have been colored, and in defense against large predators. Before we continue, if you like what you are watching, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future content. It really helps support the channel and keeps us bringing you more quality content videos like this one. Now, let's get back to it. There is substantial evidence supporting the idea that the frill acted as a defensive tool, as it covered the neck, a highly vulnerable area, and was composed of fibrolamellar bone, a special type of bone known to heal quickly once damaged and to regenerate in a short time. The sheer size of the frill could also have played a role in preventing successful attacks, as it might have served as a form of intimidation. But if the frill failed, the Triceratops had one more trick to ward off attackers: its legendary horns. These horns need no introduction, as they are the Triceratops' defining feature and are largely attributed to its fierce reputation, and rightly so, considering that the 3 horns were exceptionally sharp and long, with the 2 situated above its eyes being the largest, sometimes measuring 1.15 meters, 3.77 feet in length, equivalent to the length of 2 rhinoceros horns stacked on top of each other. And this is without considering that most paleontologists are confident that in life, the Triceratops' horns were covered by keratin sheaths, as seen in modern mammals, implying that they were actually even larger. Over the years, numerous ideas have been proposed about the function of these horns, with the most popular suggesting that they were used to combat the T.rex. However, there is significant debate over this claim, and a more widely accepted idea is that the horns were primarily designed for combat, but not against theropods, rather against others of their own species. These intraspecific duels would have been fierce, with Triceratops charging at high speeds and fighting with interlocked horns. The fights likely occurred over mating rights or territory, and studies have found that such battles were the rule rather than the exception, as a review of Triceratops skulls found that 14% had head injuries consistent with what would be expected from a horn piercing a skull. Even the most famous Triceratops specimen, Big John, did not escape the brutal lifestyle of these ceratopsians, as his skull had a massive hole in the frill that is believed to have been caused by a rival, and likely also led to his death after the wound became infected. Clearly, despite typically being portrayed as peaceful herbivores, Triceratops could be quite fierce with their horns, and along with their frill and size, they were a force to be reckoned with, even by Cretaceous standards. So fierce were they, in fact, that they occasionally used their weapons and defenses against their only known predator, the Tyrannosaurus. At that time, the Tyrant King was the only carnivore large enough to pose a threat to a mature Triceratops, and we know that predation definitely occurred, as certain specimens have damage to the skull and body that could only have come from a T.rex tooth. However, unlike what most people probably think, battles between these two were not always one-sided, and to date, the Triceratops remains the only dinosaur, or animal, known to have injured a T.rex through fossil evidence. The clearest case of this is the fossil known as the dueling dinosaurs, an extraordinary specimen consisting of a juvenile T.rex and an adult Triceratops entangled together in death. It is believed that the two did not kill each other at the same time, but died due to external forces, although it is unknown what those forces were. Regardless, both were severely damaged, with the T-Rex taking most of the damage as most of its teeth were broken, its finger was fractured, and its skull was cracked, while the Triceratops had only one embedded tooth. Because the Tyrannosaurus was so damaged and was a juvenile, some speculate that it was the Triceratops who had been the attacker, though this is highly debated. Another case of possible violence between Triceratops and T-Rex could again have been the result of an aggressive Triceratops. A large adult T-Rex, known as Duel Rex, measuring 12 meters, 40 feet in length, has an interesting hole in the back of its left femur that resembles a puncture wound. Due to the shape and size of the injury, paleontologists believe that a large ceratopsian, likely a Triceratops given the area where the theropod was found, gored the T-Rex from behind while it was standing up, indicating a surprise attack, a true prehistoric case of call an ambulance, but not for me. Furthermore, other paleontologists like Peter Dodson believe that in a fair and direct confrontation between an adult Triceratops and a T-Rex, the fight was actually more in favor of the Triceratops. Naturally, many disagree with this opinion, but whatever the case, it remains true that the Triceratops was well equipped and quite terrifying in its own way, becoming even more terrifying when you take a look at its mouth. Now, as you probably know, the Triceratops was an herbivore, so it didn't have unusually sharp or large teeth, but it did have an impressive number of teeth overall. Like many other herbivorous dinosaurs, its teeth were smaller and arranged in dental batteries that allowed it to cut through tough vegetation. In adults, these batteries could have added up to more than 800 teeth at once, more than 25 times the number of teeth humans have. Additionally, the Triceratops had a beak that aided in its feeding, with a common idea being that it was used to delicately pluck and gather tender leaves. Because the Triceratops had a low body, paleontologists believe that its diet consisted of a mix of ferns and palms that it had direct access to at ground level, or when it couldn't reach, it used its massive body to force plants to the ground. Such a tactic was not unusual among large herbivores of the time, but the Triceratops as a whole was special, and this is reflected in its great dominance within its ecosystem. The Triceratops was often by far the most abundant animal, sometimes representing 69% of the total dinosaur population within certain ecosystems, such as the Upper Hell Creek Formation, where overall the Triceratops accounts for 40% of all skeletons. Even in general, it is considered one of the most commonly found dinosaurs worldwide, a sign that it truly thrived during the late Cretaceous. With such a dense population, one would expect the Triceratops to be a social creature, but according to most paleontologists, it actually preferred its personal space. While other horned dinosaurs have been found in large groups ranging from a few hundred to a few thousand, the vast majority of Triceratops skeletons are found in isolation, suggesting that adults spent most of their lives alone. That said, there are some cases where Triceratops have been found together, with the largest known group consisting of 5 individuals, indicating that at least some lived together, probably forming family units or staying together in small groups while they were young. The Triceratops shared its environment with other dinosaurs like the Edmontosaurus Tyrannosaurus, a large and robust herbivore, and the Torosaurus, which, like Triceratops, possessed an impressive frill. It also coexisted with the Anatotitan, a duck-billed dinosaur, and the Pachycephalosaurus, known for its thick domed skull. Other dinosaurs inhabiting the same environment included the swift and slender Ornithomimus and Struthiomimus, both ostrich-like dinosaurs. Among the predators, the Tyrannosaurus rex was the most notable, but it was not the only one. Other dangerous carnivores in the area included the Dromaeosaurus, a small but fierce dinosaur, the Dakota raptor, one of the largest known raptors, and the Acaroraptor, a close relative of the famous Velociraptor. There were also non-dinosaur predators like the Borealosuchus, an ancient crocodile that lurked in rivers and swamps. In addition to these dinosaurs, the Triceratops shared its world with a variety of turtles, small mammals that were beginning to diversify, fish that filled the bodies of water, snakes, amphibians, insects, and pterosaurs that soared through the skies. The Triceratops typically lived in lush subtropical forests characterized by their rich biodiversity. These forests were covered by swamps, lakes, and rivers, creating a fertile and varied environment that supported an abundance of life. The most famous habitat of these dinosaurs is the Hell Creek Formation, a region that stretches across what is now Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Wyoming. This environment offered everything the Triceratops needed to thrive: dense vegetation for feeding, abundant water, and a great diversity of other species to interact with. During the period spanning from about 68 to 66 million years ago, the Triceratops was a common sight in these landscapes, where it lived and reproduced, leaving an indelible mark on the fossil record that has come down to us today. Sadly, not even the near-perfect adaptations that allowed the Triceratops to be a dominant force helped this species survive the KT extinction event that wiped out both it and the T.rex, finally resolving their ancient rivalry. Interestingly, the Triceratops might have been the last one standing between the two, as so far, a Triceratops found 13 centimeters above the KPG boundary is considered the youngest dinosaur known to science, a final achievement for this prehistoric icon. However, the Triceratops was not the only animal at the time that the T.rex had to worry about. There existed an animal that even the fearsome T.rex was never found attacking, the Ankylosaurus. With its nearly impenetrable armor and a tail club capable of causing serious damage, the Ankylosaurus was a formidable adversary. It is believed that the T.rex avoided attacking these armored herbivores, probably due to the risk they posed. In addition to its importance in paleontology, the Triceratops has left a significant mark on popular culture. Since its discovery in 1887, this dinosaur has captured the imagination of generations. It frequently appears in movies, documentaries, and TV series, prominently featured in franchises like Jurassic Park. Its distinctive skull with 3 horns and its enormous frill have made the Triceratops one of the most recognizable and beloved dinosaurs. However, ironically, despite having a famous name, it didn't start out being called Triceratops due to a major misclassification, as paleontologists first thought it was a mammal of all things. This happened after a pair of eyebrow horns were discovered in 1887 in Colorado. Eventually, they were sent to the famous paleontologist Othniel Charles Marsh, who believed these horns belonged not to a dinosaur, but to an ancient bison from the Pleistocene, unique in shape and size. He named it Bison alticornis and left it at that. One reason he might have done this is that at the time, no one knew that ceratopsian dinosaurs existed, a discovery that would come just a year after the brow horns were unearthed, when the same paleontologist introduced the world to Ceratops, the first horned dinosaur. In the same year, another monumental event occurred when a cowboy stumbled upon a monstrous skull protruding from a ravine. Like other horned dinosaur remains, it was sent to Marsh, who designated it as a new species of Ceratops. A year after that, nothing really changed until, by pure luck, a well-preserved skull was found that matched the so-called new Ceratops. The only difference in this skull was that it had all its horns, totaling 3, which led Marsh to finally recognize that the new Ceratops species and his bison were not only the same animal, but also a completely new genus of horned dinosaur, which he named Triceratops, meaning 3-horned face. The discovery was a major event, not only for the attention it generated, but also for the role it played in dinosaur classification, with the large group of ceratopsians being classified classified as all Marginocephalia, more closely related to Triceratops than to Psittacosaurus. Within this group, Triceratops is believed to fall under the family Ceratopsidae, and more specifically in the tribe Triceratopsini, where it joins its closest relative, the Torosaurus. Outside of classification, this new dinosaur was an overwhelming success thanks to its giant skull and strange horns, and new formations with many specimens like Hell Creek were being discovered, which also led to the realization that there had been more than one species. Since the 19th century, more than 15 species have been described, but only 2 are considered valid today: Triceratops horridus and Triceratops prorsus. From a distance, both would have looked superficially similar, but they had their differences, with horridus typically having a longer snout and a shorter nasal horn, while prorsus had the opposite, a shorter snout and a longer nasal horn. However, one area in which they were very similar was in size. Technically, the largest known specimen, nicknamed Big John, belonged to horridus, giving it a slight edge. But in the grand scheme of things, both species were absolutely enormous, symbolizing both the majesty and ferocity of the dinosaur era. The Triceratops was not only an incredibly well-adapted dinosaur, but a true titan of its time, capable of standing up to the fearsome T.rex, one of the most formidable predators of all time. Although it did not survive the catastrophic event that wiped out the dinosaurs, its legacy lives on, resonating both in science and popular culture. From its impressive fossils to its place in our collective imagination, the Triceratops continues to be an endless source of fascination for all those passionate about the amazing prehistoric world of our planet. That's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, leave your like and subscribe to support me to create more content. See you soon in the next video.